Hi everyone, let's talk about Fresco, which is a long overdue video for anyone that votes for it, but we're finally here. So yeah, I just finished a full playthrough of this. If you're wondering where all the game is and how it plays and stuff, it's linked in the description, and it's a marvelous playthrough. You'll love it. So yeah, just a absolutely fantastic kind of it's action selection, secret planning. Mixed with the kind of I was familiar with the wake up system from Viticulture originally, but Fresco is Fresco got there first. It's a lovely theme that everything works well with. Like a lot of Queen games, you can strip loads of it back and have a much simpler family game. Not have the I'm assuming you saw the playthrough now. Not having the portrait cards or the bishop's favors collect a certain number of splotches tiles. You can do away with all of that and the extra special color mixing for the pinks and the browns. Can leave all of that off and have a really simple family game, but it's nice that I would play it with those three things on always. I haven't experimented with we've got the later box of expansions. I think with there are 2 expansion boxes with 3 more modules in each. So yeah, it's a game where if you're really into it, then there is a whole world out there waiting. I believe there's a big box Kickstarter as well for all of it in one great big go. But yeah, it works really well. The wake up system, as in Viticulture, it makes sense thematically for a start. It's a nice introduction to the game as well, explaining that rule. And that everything else makes sense from it. The prices in the market fluctuating, the mood of your painter, which affects how many apprentices want to follow you. It works together really, really nicely, and it's a very tight game. That's in a 2-player game, you are playing with a dummy player, Leonardo, and that's there are only enough markets for each player. Each player's only going to get to go to one of those markets. You're always going to get something, which is good. You're not going to get left out in the cold, but what you necessarily want isn't going to be there. So that adds kind of risk to the planning, that you're never quite sure of where you want your workers to be, because there isn't much guaranteed. Only the spaces where you can mix paints and get money and get morale are really fixed in there. The paints that are going to be available and the fresco portions that are still going to be available for painting, that's kind of up in the air, and it does drive you to it's harsh going for these earlier times. You get punished massively in terms of morale and the price of things, but sometimes it's vital. It's the risk of your planning. It's what you are trying to balance throughout the whole game. The punishments for waking up early versus the risk of waking up later and wasting workers. Putting 3 workers on the market stall and you got left with number 1 that's only got 2 spaces in it, or putting in extra workers for painting the fresco and finding out other people painted those things first, or that you didn't get to buy the color of paint that you needed and now you can't paint in there. It does also allow you to, you can be trying to just get along and painting whatever, but if you risk kind of leaving it all out there, you can build up these paints and go for a great big combo in the fresco building. So although you are kind of seeing the scores build up and people being left behind, it's not a game where that's all over. You can make huge point jumps if you've been building this stuff intelligently and kind of gearing up for those huge turns, but at the same time you're risking other people swooping in there, and everything's secret. So someone with amazing memory would get a perfect picture of what you've got behind your screen. But I would imagine in almost all cases, people are busy thinking about their own stuff. So it's a secret what is going on. So it's probably going to be by accident or by their own plans that they're doing stuff. They're not necessarily doing things to deny. But the extra modules, I mentioned you could leave them off and have a family game, but I think they are such good extras that pull you to these different places that you might not necessarily have wanted to go to as well. That you might not necessarily need the money, but the special portrait power can be great. Especially in the playthrough, an extra money throughout the game came out in the very first round. So that's the maximum output of that card basically, or giving you extra points whenever the bishop comes around. So that means that constructing the altar is even less attractive to you. You want to go for not only painting the fresco, but an even greater emphasis is placed on the bishop because you can potentially get 4 points from painting the thing that he's standing on top of. I think it all works together beautifully. As I said, I'm not familiar with those extra expansion modules, but I can only imagine they just add even more kind of depth and variety to the game, because that's kind of the downside of modules, is that you don't have a straight setup. That's kind of the thing that gets me with expansions, that I would really love expansions to just come with a whole new setup, rather than set up the game the old way and then change these things. And then once you've got loads of different things to change, it becomes a bit of a pain. But the kind of the flip side of that with these modules is that you don't have to have all of these things on. It's not necessarily that, okay, learn all of this stuff and then we'll add the next expansion in. You could just play with that stuff if you wanted, or you could just play with one bit of it, or you could just play with the portraits in this, or just the extra colours in this if you wanted to. It's all up to kind of the experience of the people that you are playing with, their familiarity with Fresco or games in general. It's good that you can strip it back to its kind of core parts, and that core part being a simpler game, but still a really, really enjoyable one. And once you've got people hooked on that, you can add all of the modules in and they get a big complex one, and you get to reveal, catchphrase style, you get to reveal the Fresco underneath as you play along. But I think it's fantastic still. It's a game we've had quite a while, and definitely, it's good that these things get pulled out when they get voted for, because often it reminds me, that's kind of drifted to the back of my mind. But Fresco is still a fantastic game and absolutely deserves its place on the shelf. I think that's enough talking about it, though. I'm going to have to talk about another game now. Bye, everyone.